All right, let's get this thing going. Cameras all over the place this week. Hello, everybody. Give me one moment, as usual, just to get things up and running. I want to make sure I start that Discord event as well. I have a weekly recurring event, so people can opt in if they want to get a notification through Discord instead of through their email. If you want to get it through your email, that's what following does. Just get that up and running. Okay, that looks like it's working. Let's make sure our audio is actually audible. Pretty please. That's not good. I can't hear a thing. Test. There it goes. Okay, good. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to another week of Future Group Friday. My name is Cheese Doodle. For those of you who do not know me, I am a member of the TagPro Future Group and development teams tasked with improving the game, making sure that the plans for the game are communicated to the rest of the community, and then hearing suggestions for what we should be working on next, actually building those features. The Future Group, of course, has been working on a lot of things recently. We're setting our sights on some bigger things in the near future. So the goal for today is going to be to go through development updates from the last week as usual. Then we're going to go through the candy board as usual. And then we're going to finish up with something a little special this week. We're going to be talking roadmap planning and design, which is a bit of a departure from our usual feature building. So super excited for that. For those of you who don't know what TagPro is, because you just found this stream randomly, TagPro is a free-to-play online multiplayer capture the flag game. You can find it in any browser at tagpro.gg. Short 6-minute games. Capture the flag, just like you played when you were a kid. So, I'm having some trouble getting Discord to work the way I want it to, so I'm just going to use my phone for the dev updates. This has been a pretty small week in terms of actual changes that we've made. I think you saw that release that we put out a few days ago that had the majority of our stuff, but let's go back to a week from today and talk about what has changed. That puts us on the 28th. Yeah, maybe we did more than I thought. 28th. Okay, we had a fix go in for flares. We had an issue. We noticed that players in Tier 1-3 were able to earn Tier 1-2 and Tier 1-1 flares. We had a fix in for that, so it stopped happening. We had a bunch of back-end stuff related to the season resets. I'm not going to go into that right now. That's not very exciting. Season 0 ending next week. We put that announcement out. Hopefully everyone saw that. Check the subreddit if you didn't. Very excited to be done with the Season 0 thing, move on to the actual production, and then keep working on the rest of the site. So that's been a long time coming. Very, very long time coming. We had some updates to the caching system that we use, so it's faster for loading. We're not going to the database as many times. All just stuff related to the ranked leaderboard. Then we've got... just boring back-end stuff, a bug with leaderboard updating. We still have an active bug right now where if a player is added to the leaderboard, they will sometimes be in the wrong order. Like the 14th player will be in 13th. It's a super minor visual thing, but if you see any patterns there, let us know. We're still trying to figure out what the source of that one is. Back-end stuff for the resets, more of that. Skip. Post-game updates. Yeah, a big change went in this week. We have a lot of iteration, we'll call it, for the code that actually updates the stats at the end of the game. So game ends, a bunch of stuff happens. You get the ranked updates on the scoreboard. You get your profile adjustments. You get your flares earned for different things that you did. and you have penalties for players who avoided a ranked game or players who quit mid-game. All of that code has been around for a while now with ranked, but it went through a bunch of different people and a bunch of different processes with different goals in mind. So it's not the best code from a long-term standpoint. So I went through and I just kind of standardized our approach for all of that. Unfortunately, on the front end, you don't see any difference because it works the same way as it did before, but it's a lot more streamlined. Hopefully that will help us with updating stat-related things in the future. That was a chunk of my week spent on that. Big change coming in for the neutral flag queue. As you might be aware, neutral flag is now available as a ranked option on the site. If you were not aware of that, when you join ranked, look on the left side where it says your checkboxes like your region and your game mode. Under capture the flag, you will see a neutral flag option. When we added that in, we added it in as a high FGF Future Group Friday. When we added that in, we put it as like a lower priority queue than the capture the flag queue. Not intentionally because we didn't want games to happen, but it was intentional because we wanted to make sure that neutral flag is still ahead of casual, still ahead of mini games, but not outperforming capture the flag. That was a mistake for us. We didn't realize, or I didn't realize actually, that we could just have it be equal to capture the flag. I thought one had to be ahead of the other. Turns out the way it's written, we don't have to do that. So we're just upgrading neutral flag to be on the same level as capture the flag. And what that means is if there are people waiting for a neutral flag game and a ranked capture the flag game becomes ready, if it can just compare those, it won't say, oh, always pick the capture the flag. It will say, okay, which one is a more high quality matchup, I guess, from a standpoint of how long have people been waiting for it, how close together are the players in that game in terms of skill, and it will just balance them against each other for their individual merits, not just say, okay, capture the flag always wins. So hopefully that will improve the frequency of game spawning just for what people have selected, because what we were seeing is players who have a long wait time for neutral flag were waiting for like 6 or 7 minutes for a capture the flag game to launch when they could have just immediately launched a neutral flag game. And we have 8 players there. They want to play neutral flag. Just send them to the game. Like, there's no reason to hold them back from that game. So a little bit of a wait time thing. That is live now. So if you're seeing any issues with that, let us know. If you were seeing queue skips, that was a big thing this week. People were talking about seeing games created they thought they should be in. I think that is most of the source. I don't know if it's all of the source. So hopefully the frequency of that goes down. If you're still seeing it, let us know, though, please. Then we had a fix to the decay system that we built. We had it so there's a floor now. You cannot decay beyond a certain point. So easy example, if you are in tier 1-3 and you stop playing, you're not going to decay lower down than tier 2-3. So even if you stop playing for the whole season, come back at the end, you're still going to be in tier 2, as opposed to before this release, you would be down in tier 8 or 6 if we only have 6 tiers, which is not great because that player didn't lose the ability to play at that level in that time. So we just bring them down a little bit and then say, okay, you've dropped enough. We're going to keep you there and take you off the leaderboard because you're not active. But we did not account for cases where a player decays off of the leaderboard from the very, very bottom and then comes back with a lower score than the lowest ranked player. And what that was doing, and we saw this in the Bug Reports channel a couple of times, is a player would come back and they would win their first game, and on the scoreboard in the post-game updates, it would say minus like 100 on their skill score. So they won the game. Everybody on their team gained like 5 or 10 or whatever, but they were minus 100 on it for winning, and we were getting some confusion there. That was just how we were calculating it. It's not important enough to go into detail right now. The biggest thing is that it's fixed, and it should not happen again. So if you win a game, you can expect your score to go up and not go down when that game ends. So that's live now, and I think that was the bulk of what we worked on this week. So most of my time was spent on that code that I talked about, but the other thing that I was spending time on was where do we go from here? Kind of what are the next steps? I had a lot of discussions with members of the Future Group and the Steer Co. Just talking about how do we get the shop up and running? How do we get Steam up and running? Once those are up and running, what do we do next? And that's kind of what we're going to focus on at the end of this stream. So we'll table that for now and come back to it. I didn't get any questions on the form this week. So if you had anything you wanted me to talk about on stream, be sure to fill out that form. It should be in the description of the channel, and also on YouTube. If you're watching this back, it should be in the video description there as well. But for now, let's switch over to the candy board and knock these out. and then we're going to spend some time on roadmap discussion. So we got a good number of requests this week. I think a lot of these are going to be related to ranked and neutral flag because they just came out. So let's see what people are saying here. If you click on a player's name in a ranked joiner, it should open a new tab instead of change the current page. That seems reasonable to me. That's a super easy thing for us to add as well. So let's make a ticket for that real quick. Let me know if I'm dropping any frames. I'm getting a little stuttery on my side here, but the request here is open profile links in a new tab from launcher pages in a ranked launcher. Hello, Thanos Ball. Open a new tab if a player clicks on the name of another player. I don't think we really need to justify it. It's pretty straightforward why they would want that. That's a super low effort enhancement. And there is a relevant canny post. Let's grab that real quick. I think I said it last week, but I just want to make sure it's out there again. Canny is pushing us off of their free plan. So if that happens, and I think what's going to happen, the way they explained it to us, is that people will still be able to post to the boards. We just won't be able to go into the view that we have right now and edit it. And we're working on a fix for that, so we don't have to rely on Canny to do that. But if that happens, we're just going to be responding directly in the site instead of using this kind of portal that I have here to respond. So here's the Canny post I wanted. Relevant Canny post. It's a bad week for typing, I can tell already. Let's get that out there. We'll say this is planned. Okay, we got that. Then we've got mini games, remove AFK kick, and long countdown to start game. So this is because of the new changes. Mini games are happening a lot more frequently. If you are queued for a game and there are no spots available, it will just send you to a mini game because we can pull you out of that mini game now into casual or ranked, whatever is ready. So the request here is that if I'm sitting AFK in a mini game, let me sit AFK there. Don't kick me out of that mini game. And that's pretty straightforward to do. I'm trying to think if we have a ticket for that already. Let me check real quick, because I thought I just talked about this somewhere. Yeah, we do have a ticket here. So here's, during casual games, there's leniency added to the AFK timer that only kicks a player when a replacement is available. That was a pretty significant change, because before, if you were AFK in your lobby, you would get kicked out whenever the timer ended, and you would have games that were 4v3 for a while, instead of having 4v4 with an AFK player. And the benefit to that is if that player comes back, they don't need to re-queue up and rejoin and all that. They're just in the game and they continue playing. And so that really helped with was reducing AFK reports. We were having a lot of trouble with low population regions, having a lot of players just get banned because they were joining up, not seeing anybody, and then just kind of checking in on the tab every once in a while, but getting kicked in the process and earning AFK reports. And that was generating bans that were just compounding the problem, because now this player should be able to play. They didn't hurt anybody by going AFK. So that change really helped with that, but we should do the same thing for mini games so that if players want to sit there and wait for somebody else to join, they can just do that. So we do already have a ticket for this. Please add back no AFK kicks. I'm going to merge this in to the other one. Please add back. Merge. Okay. Add a friendly reminder message in ranked queues that players can be sent a computer notification when their ranked game has started. Yes, I think this is, we can go a little bit larger with this. So they're saying that if you're in the queue, a reminder that you can get a notification. So if you weren't aware, on your profile settings, let me grab that real quick. If you want to receive a notification from the game whenever something happens, you can click on notify when game starts. And what that does is it sends you a pop-up, like you'll see it in the bottom right of your screen, that says your ranked game has started or your TagPro game has started if you're in a casual game. That is a really useful thing to have, but not everyone knows that it exists. What I want to do with that, and I want to make sure I don't have a ticket for this already, is expand that to anytime you avoid a game or anytime you go AFK in a game, you get a pop-up that says, hey, did you know that you can get these notifications if they don't already have it enabled? And I think that will help with exposure to that feature and also help people just enabling it more, which should help with reducing voids and all of that. So, excuse me. Yeah, I don't see a ticket for this already, so let's make one for it. And say that offer enable notifications prompt after AFK kicks and voids. There are still players, through no fault of their own, who are not aware excuse me, of the notification feature. This is resulting in voids and AFK kicks, which could be avoided anytime a player earns a kick show them a link or like a redirect or an option, whatever, to enable site notifications. Probably also added like a don't show this again. In the voided message. And that's a good enough starting point for a dev. That would be a decent bit of work, so I'm not going to put an effort label on that, but it would be a pretty big enhancement. So let us grab that. I always like the suggestions that come up after releases because they're very specific to the stuff that we just worked on. And I think a lot of the time they're really good suggestions too. Because of that, it's all like fresh in your mind kind of thing. Let us play the mini games. Sometimes I'm having fun with them and then I get forced out. The enable all games setting will allow you to play out the duration of any game you end up in. If you want your current game to be your last, you can also select the last game icon in the upper left corner. To remove your ball from consideration for other matches. Non-logical server selections. I've been really. Yeah, that's not expect. I'm going to reach out to Kaiser directly. I'm not sure how that would have happened. So he was ending up on servers other than the server they had selected, which obviously is not what you want. So we'll look into that, see what I can find. Some players didn't have their rank on the spectator page. Yeah, so those players should have the flare because they have not played any games yet. And it looks like Bash covered that as well. Yeah, the alignment is off. They should be the same width as the tier indicators there. The flare should be a little wider to take up that space. Looks like Bash has that covered though, so we will ignore it for now. We want Bombing Run and Geokoala back in the rotation. Well, please feel free to petition the map test committee on Reddit or Discord. All right. And that is enough for that. So, good suggestions. I think that is something we want to get built into the site pretty soon, so it's a little more streamlined and updating the roadmap and all that. But let's move on to the bulk of what I want to work on here today, which is roadmap stuff. So just a little bit of context here. I have been spending the last week or so really looking through the list of features that we have planned on the GitHub. So you've been seeing the tickets that we make here. We have like all of these things that we add, and you'll see in the top left we have 213 things. Oh, you can't see that because of my face. Can I move my face? I can. So over here you can see 213 things that are technically planned that we want to be adding in the future. I just moved some stuff I didn't want to move. Crap. Okay. Stay there. Yeah, so I was going through the list of things and trying to figure out what stuff actually needs to get done. What stuff did we, like there was some stuff that was old that we'd already done that we didn't realize, so we didn't close all the tickets well. We've improved our process on that since. So it was a lot of cleanup there. And then what I really want to work on, and I need some feedback on the best way to do this, because like, again, I am not a developer by trade. I'm not a project manager or anything. This is all stuff that's relatively new to me. I want to make an actual roadmap for the things that we are planning to do, when we plan to have them done, and like the priority list basically of all the things that we want to do. So I started this last night. This is going to take more than a single stream, I think, to get through and really flush out in full detail. And I'm going to have a discussion with the actual future group on this after we kind of get it into a workable position. But I went through and I made a list of the first chunk of things that we want to do. And this is just a site that I found that lets me drag and drop and just kind of move things around. So we're going to try to go through the features that I've grabbed so far. There are more that I have not made lists for or an item for, but this is about half or 2/3 of what we do plan to add at some point. So I don't really have a clear structure for how I'm going to do this, so I'm just going to be kind of trying it out. If you have any opinions on that, let me know. But this is going to be our feature building session this week, is just getting things into some sort of order or into some sort of categories, because we have to keep in mind that TagPro is a volunteer-driven project. We don't have a bunch of developers who are being paid to show up 40 hours a week and work on specific things at a specific time. We have a group of people who enjoy the game, want to work on the game, but have varying levels of time available and varying skill sets to actually apply towards the game. So we're going to separate things into some main categories, which are like feature cornerstones. And I'm going to make a note for this. Sticky note. So feature cornerstones. And these are going to be big things that a release note, let's say release cornerstones. Big things that a release notes would have in the title. So think about the most recent release that we had. If we pull that up on Reddit real quick, we always try to put something important in the title of the post so it grabs people's attention and they actually click on it and see what happens. So in the most recent one, we had ranked flares and seasons was kind of our cornerstone item, and then live game summary and direct spectate was the other. So those are two very big things. The direct spectate option has been very popular, obviously. Ranked flares will be a thing that people are going for, so it's a really important like base part of the game. So that was kind of the feature, and those are things that take a long time to build. They are complicated features, so they need a lot of time put into them before they can actually be released. It's not just like, oh, we'll sneak this in for the next one. It's a big thing. So after that, or before that, we had ranked tier names and player count stuff, matchmaking fixes, and then we had a couple smaller things like your ghost mode minigame updates. So before that, ranked matchmaking was a cornerstone feature. Before that, that was a smaller one. The spotlight. So it depends on the release. Obviously, some things are going to have bigger, like AFK indicators is a pretty big thing that we added. So that's the first category that I'd like to try to pick things out for. And those are things that are going to require some time to work on. So the next thing is going to be kind of QOL features, things that are nice to have, don't really make or break the game, but people want them and people would enjoy using them. And then the last category, and we're going to break these down into subcategories, is could do it, but why? /when. Things that you could add them, they're cool, there's nothing wrong with them necessarily, but they don't really move the game forward. They just kind of are a thing that we could have. So why would we do that? When do we do that? And that's the one that we're going to probably break down into a true priority list. So it's going to be is the release cornerstones are the big checkpoints. The next release cornerstone is the in-game shop. The one after that is going to be Steam. So it's a very clear, obvious, big projects that we need to spend a lot of time on, but people really want these. These are things that move the game forward. QOL features is more like stuff that would be useful to have around the site. People would probably notice it and use it pretty regularly. And then could do, but why is more just like, who cares? Like somebody wants this, but not everybody really cares about this. And there's going to be some blurring of these lines as well. So this is just our initial tier system. We're going to start putting things in. This is, again, not the full list of features. This is just a chunk of them. So we're going to keep going in the future weeks and add stuff in. So, for example, profile stats for map win rates. And I've got links to the individual tickets so we can take a look at those if we need to get some clarity. But profile stats for map win rates is saying that if you play on a certain map and you're really good at that map, you can see on your profile the win rate that you have on that map. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to have. I'm kind of between could do it and why and QOL, because this isn't really improving anybody's experience on the site, but it is kind of a nice thing that they would have. So this is probably at the top of a could do it, but why when idea. And if you disagree with any of my placements, obviously the chat is open, so feel free to let me know. And I'm just going to kind of run through this, get a rough draft in, and then we'll start to critique and nitpick and go from there, because we can also connect things to others as like prerequisites and stuff. So linking Reddit and Discord accounts to TagPro, that feels closer to a release cornerstone. That's something that we're going to really want to have support for in the future, just so we can have other features built off of it. So I think that's something we should really be prioritizing highly, because it's going to open up a lot of opportunity for other things that we can do on the site. So it might be a prerequisite for a lot of other things as well. Allow mods to mute players for a single game only as a timeout feature. We could do it, but why and when? Allow additional group member options like changing name, flare, finding the profile of other players in group, and the mutiny feature. So this is a QOL feature. This is something that we would be improving. So right now, if you want to change your name in a group, you have to go back to your profile. You have to type in your new name and then hit save. If you could do that directly in the group just by clicking on your own ball and editing it, that is an improvement in quality of life. Same thing with changing your flare. And then the mutiny feature is a way to recover a group if the group leader has gone inactive. It's just a way for enough players to vote and say, we want this group to be taken away from that player. If they're not around, they won't be able to cancel it, and it will just transfer the group over. So that will stop players from having to create a new group and then come back. That would be, again, a quality of life thing that would be cool to have. Not a cornerstone necessarily, but still a good feature. Expanded game ending parameters. This is one I think we spent a little bit of time on a stream. When was that? Probably a couple months ago at this point. This one's talking about different ways of defining the end of your game. So you can say, I want the game to end when it's a +3 cap mercy rule and somebody has like 10 tags, for example. So it allows a lot more customization of mini games and little things like that. And this could also really tie into the tangent that I went on 2 or 3 weeks ago about different game states. If everyone remembers this conversation, I got lost here. It was talking about different ways to have clutch time work, and then I realized that a game state is just it's not a thing. Like, there's only one game state. We just change how a game state ends to go to clutch time and to go to overtime. So if we could remove all the titles from anything, we have the ability to just make a base state, and then you can customize as many game states as you want based on any parameters that you want. So that would kind of tie into this, but we could do it, but why? It doesn't really move the game forward right this second, but it would be cool. It'd be very cool. Customize a grab immunity duration. So this is another group setting. We could do it, but why? When? So adjusting the 0.25, saying instead of 0.25 second immune time, you have like 0.5 second. What's the word I'm looking for? Invincibility. That's the word I'm looking for. So just customizing that, we could do it. Why? See-through walls setting, thinking like the zombie mode. If you have the ability to block players from being able to see through walls, so if you're on one side, they're on the other side, you can't see them, that would just kind of change the dynamic a little bit. Create, share, edit game queues. This is a quality of life feature. So this is an expansion on the current presets feature. So right now, if you go to a group and you click all the options that you want, you can then generate a preset of those options and send it to other people to play. I'm just going to click a bunch of random things here just so you can see what I'm talking about. If you do this, you get a bunch of stuff that's been changed here. Hey, Crit, welcome to the chat. You can do this and you can click on group preset. You can generate a group preset and you can copy it. And now if you leave that group and you make a new group, you can just load those settings back in and it will keep everything there. So that's the group presets that already exists. What this is offering, create, share, edit game queues, is the ability to create multiple presets at the same time, string them together, and have a game queue. So instead of just this one game with this one set of settings, you have maybe 5 games, like a full competitive league series. Like you have week 3 is going to be on this map. These are the settings, and this is the order that they're played in. You could queue it all up, and then you could have at the end of each game deciding in those options if it's going to send you back to the group or if it's going to send you straight into the next game. And so that would also allow private groups to just go from one game to the next. If they're doing like a tournament or something where they know they're going to be playing all these games and they don't want to break, they could just skip straight to the next one. So it's just a different way of allowing people to play a bunch of games in a row from a private group. So that is a QOL thing. I'm not sure it's the highest priority QOL thing, but it is improving the ability for players to get into games and to play the games that they want and to share what the games are going to be with others. So separate donation flares out of special in profile settings. So this is saying right now, if you're looking at your flares, you can hide other, event, degree, or ranked. Right now, other includes donations, and it includes something called special flares. So special flares are your weekly flares, your win rate flares, and anything that's like behind the scenes stuff like moderators, future group stuff, and then your fossils. So the request is to separate these out so that these donation flares are separate from the others. We could do it, but why, when, I don't know. So that's going to be down in that category. Modify the next win text for 360-degree players. So that one is probably a QOL thing because it's a bit misleading right now. If you go to the leaders tab and go to the community 360 and go to anybody who is 360, you can see that their next degree is next win. This is not accurate. If you're at 360, there are no more degrees to earn. You've completed the circle. So this text is misleading and should be changed. This is a QOL feature because it would change something that's a little bit confusing right now on the site. I think I can drag and drop multiple things, I hope. Yeah, I can. Okay, good. Allow direct edit, add, remove of default texture packs. So this is saying that on the back end, we should have some ability for admins or mods or somebody like developers to go into the texture pack thing and add or remove stuff from this directly. So right now, the way we do this, it's a back end process. We need to upload it to a different repo, and it's a whole thing. It's just asking for a way to do this directly instead of having it all be front end. So this is a QOL. It's more of an internal QOL because it doesn't really change anything on the front end, but it is an improvement for how much time it would take to do a certain thing. Add a new player indicator on accounts or IPs which are inexperienced. This is a pretty big one for me. I'm actually going to put this all the way up in release cornerstones. I think this is a really important thing for the game. Right now, we've made improvements in this, but it's still really hard to tell, other than the eye test, for a normal player, is this player new or is this player working against their team? As a moderator, I have tried really, really hard to shift the perspective away from this player is always working against. I want people to, by default, think that somebody who is bad is new, because it's healthier for the community if people are not outright harassing these players who they think are bad at the game. If everyone thinks that every bad player is trying to be bad, you get a lot of bad comments directed at players who are actually just bad and new to the game and trying to figure it out. So it's really important to me that people understand that somebody is new. Something that really helped with that was removing the chat feature from some balls after 25 games. We don't see as many long-term some balls who people call trolls. I have different opinions on that, but they definitely disrupt the game environment by pretending to be new and then very obviously not being new. So I think that if we can add a direct indicator on a player ball that says this person is new to the game, be nice to them, even if there are a couple false positives that we can remove, it's still going to overall separate out even more. This player is new, this player is very clearly not new. So I hope if we can get that in, it would improve with a Steam release on the way, the environment that new players find themselves in when they do join for their first game. We have a trial for this going right now for moderators and monitors, where we can see the number of games played for a particular account or sumball, which allows us to get a better insight on whether or not that player is new. So that trial was to see if those numbers were actually indicative of how good a player is going to be, and it seems like they are so far. So I think we're going to progress that to the actual feature that was planned and add a little leaf icon next to players who are new, and the ability for mods to mark somebody as not new if they end up being a smurf or something like that. So I think it's a pretty important thing. I'm going to put it up top, and we will come back to that later. Homepage calendar for upcoming events and community event submissions. This is a cornerstone thing. This is a really important feature to me. We spent some time on stream with this a couple weeks ago. This one, just to show it to you guys, I don't have the document up right here. This is just the specification, but we talked about it, putting the little calendar up here where you can say in the next week, this is the stuff that's going to be happening. You can mark yourself as interested in that thing. You might get a notification for it when it's happening. If a community project is going to happen, like say the Super Bowl for Major League TagPro is happening, they can put an event up and say this is a thing that's happening in TagPro, and people who are not really closely aligned with competitive will still be able to see those things that are happening. If somebody wants to host, hey Beach, somebody wants to host a tournament, for example, and they want to have open invites or whatever, they can say, hey, on Tuesday next week, I'm having a tournament. Here's my event for it. And people can, again, mark themselves interested, get the details they need about that. So this is a really important thing for just whole community kind of building as a feature. So it's pretty important to me that we have that as a cornerstone that people know about, that we can work on and improve. So that's up there. Fix player name and flare sizing when zooming out as a spectator. So this is just when you're spectating a game, if you zoom all the way in, zoom all the way out, you'll notice that the player names change size and then they lock at a certain size, and then the flare disappears. And it's just a little bit jarring in how that happens. It's not a smooth transition. So this is just a quality of life thing, and it could be better. Display player ping on the scoreboard during games. This is something that happens in a lot of other games. You see the connectivity of other players. Some games actually show the exact ping. I'm not sold on how we implement that just yet, so it's definitely something we could do, but I'm not sure when or why we would be getting that in. It's probably a higher priority than some of these other ones, but we'll talk through individual groups later. So, support events in private groups without flares and event-specific features. This is a thing that would be cool to have, but not really a cornerstone type thing. They're just asking that if I queue up for a private game with my friends and I want to pull up the birthday tower from 2018 with the actual like falling Mars balls and all that in the texture pack, can I do that? Right now the answer is no. They want the answer to that to be yes. Also thinking about the old egg shooter events, like just other game modes that we built at some point in the past and we offer once or twice a year, but we don't actually have available whenever you want. So that's what that request is for. Similarly, allow different ball shapes in private groups. This is also an event, so these are pretty closely related. If you remember the April Fool's event where you could join up as a triangle or a square, it's just the ability to do that for any map, for any game mode, instead of only for the April Fool's event, which I think is really funny. I personally, Triangle TagPro is one of the most fun, some of the most fun I've had playing the game just because it's so ridiculous, but that is there. A lot of tile things. Tile things are all going to be the why when, so this is going to be a lot of discussion about the ordering of things. A new wall bombs tile, so instead of having a wall and a bomb, you have a wall bomb, which is just a bomb that you can put inside of a wall. When you run into that tile, it's just a wall, but you can put a button on it and have it detonate, so it just changes the ability for map makers to create different shapes with the map, because now, if you want to have a wall bomb, when that bomb is gone, that is a void. There's an empty tile where that bomb was. So they want the ability for that bomb to become just a wall when it's not there after it gets diffused. So that's an experimental tile feature. A new super boost tile would be the ability for a boost to be placed on top of a team tile. And for those who don't know, that makes you go very, very fast. If you are on a team tile and hit a boost, if you put them in the same tile, it's always going to be a super boost no matter which direction you hit it from. Add a blinker to sticky gates when they are returning to neutral. Doesn't a bomb behind the wall with a button do the same thing? Almost. It does a very similar thing, but the strength of that bomb is going to be a little bit lower because it's one tile farther away. So yes, functionally you can do that to a degree, but it's not exactly the same thing. So it would still be a thing we could do. I'm not sure when or why, but we could do it. Blinker to sticky gates. I'm stuck between could do it and QOL. What this is asking for is sticky buttons. For those who don't know what that is, if you have a map with a green tile and a sticky button, if you roll over that button, it will turn the green tiles to the color of your team, but only for a certain amount of time. And after a certain number of seconds, decided by the map maker, not by the group settings, then it will return back to a neutral green gate. So this is a sticky button because it holds for a little bit longer than the time that you're on it, but it does not hold forever. So the request is that when a sticky button is about to expire, say that gate is about to turn from red back to green, they want the gate to flash to say this is going to be changing soon so you're not caught off guard. And I kind of lean toward putting this in QOL because that is a base mechanic that is not intuitive. And so if a player is playing and this happens to them and they don't see the blinkers because they don't exist yet, I think that's a little bit confusing. Not saying it's like a critical thing that we need to fix the second, but it is something that could be more straightforward and explained a little bit better. So I'm going to put that in QOL for now because I do think it improves the playing experience if you understand that a button can sometimes stop pressing a gate after it's been held. But this is also map maker QOL. They would use sticky more if it existed. That's a really good point. Yeah, it might make map makers a little more comfortable including this feature because players aren't getting confused or frustrated with their maps using this feature. So yes. Add honking. Honking is a thing that has been requested for a very long time, was almost built, and is currently sitting in purgatory. I think, and I'm going to get some crap for this, I think I have to put honking down in the could do it, but when, why. Not because I'm against it, not because I don't think it'd be fun. I just don't think it really rises to the same level as release cornerstones, and it definitely is not a quality of life thing. It's a feature. It's a separate thing. So we'll talk about the priority in here later, but I think honking is going to be a could do it, but when, why, or why, when. Add decimal to all-time win rate stats. This is saying on your profile, if you have stats, your all-time is currently a rounded number. They just want that to be a decimal. We could definitely do that. I'm not sure why or when, but we could. Fix incorrect 0-degree display on replays before November 29th, 2023. Okay. Let's look at this replay. This replay is from before November 29th, 2023. And if we zoom in, we can see that anybody with stats off is incorrectly marked as 0 degrees. And anybody logged out is incorrectly marked as 0 degrees. Yeah, look, it's me. Okay, we could do that. I think that technically counts as a QOL because it's something that's wrong on the site right now that needs to be fixed. Yeesh, someone is salty. Yeah, so that's probably a lower priority QOL, but it is a QOL thing. Allow bombs and buttons on team tiles. So this is similar to the Super Boost thing, and similar to the wall thing, honestly, where a team tile can also have an element on top of it. So when that element is not there, instead of an empty tile, it is a team tile. That seems fine. Add a peak tile shape. That is a little, I think this one's easier to just show you guys. In the middle here, I don't know if you can see this very well. This little tile where it comes to the middle and then back down instead of anything. So we have 45 tiles, right? Those are directly across. This is like half of a 45 tile where it just cuts it down the middle again. So the tile is cut down the middle once, and then cut down the middle a second time. That leaves you with this little peak. You cannot fit a ball through this, but if you had a peak here, a ball could fit between the two peaks that were on different tiles. So just a little request that we got. We could do it. I'm not sure when or why, but could definitely do that. Separate volume sliders for sounds and music. That seems like a quality of life thing. Just the ability to say, I want my sounds to be this level, but I want my music to be a different level. I think that is a reasonable thing to request if you want to have different levels for either of those. I'm going to move this list up a little bit. Fix map previews incorrectly displaying end zone and team tiles. So this is kind of funny because this is exactly what this is just for previews. So right now, if you put down a bomb next to a bunch of team tiles, the preview will show that that bomb is on top of a team tile. Whoops. But this is just the preview. So wait, which one is this? Yeah, so the preview is showing the wrong thing. It's missing the tile here, but it exists here. But then over here, the preview shows that there is a end zone tile, but there isn't actually an end zone tile there. So this request is to make that a feature. This request is to make it so that it's actually accurate for what it is right now. So I think we have to loop these together, but these ones are QOL and the other one is I could do it. So I'm kind of torn how to display this. I'm going to put it like that for now because I think that they are related, but we'll come back to that later. Fix grabs counting in hockey game mode. Oh, that's right. We're not currently incrementing S grabs. That's just a bug that needs to be fixed. That's QOL. If you're in hockey and you get the puck, it doesn't count as a grab right now if you popped another player to get the puck. So we just need to fix that so it counts. Time trials leaderboard. This is one that we spent some time on the stream. It's saying a full site feature that has a map specific leaderboard for the top X times for that map, and then a bunch of different maps so you can kind of race people to the top of that. That is a release cornerstone for me. It might not be first on the roadmap, but that's a pretty big feature that I think a lot of people want, especially the gravity community right now and the racing communities. They both want the ability to have your times posted visible to everybody and then maybe earn some flares for having those fast times. So that is a good thing, and I want that to be built. So that's a cornerstone. Add moving previews for texture packs. That's an old feature that we had to remove support for. What they're asking for here is that this little moving icon is visible for all texture packs on hover. So we don't have that anymore. You can just see the preview of what is there, but you don't get that little moving thing. This also should be showing the boost moving, like the different boost flash if they're available. That should also be displayed in that preview. So that is I don't know, is that a QOL or is that a could do it but when why? I think it's a could do it but when why. So as you can see, long list of things. We're not going to get through everything this week, but well, we'll go to 90 minutes. But barely QOL, says Beach. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep it down there because I don't think it's critical. I don't know. This isn't gonna be perfect in the first pass through. We're just getting started. Display custom texture packs the same way as default. So those are tied together. I should put those together. Keep you in the same place. Add Fortunate Maps ID and addition date to rotation maps. This is definitely a QOL thing. Right now, if you see a map on the maps page, you have no way of knowing which map this represents on Fortunate Maps. Also, we still get that error. I have no idea what causes that. For those who don't know what Fortunate Maps is, it's a different website that hosts all of our, oh, that's cute, that hosts all of our maps. So any map that exists right now was uploaded to Fortunate Maps at some point. And then if you're in a private group, you just take the ID of that map and you can load it into your group whenever you want. But we don't currently have a way to look at, what is this map? Interesting. We don't currently have a way to look at a map here and say, okay, Almond is this version of the map. So if you look up Almond, there's going to be more than one Almond, or some really messy ones as well. So you don't really have a way of knowing which one of these almonds is the actual almond used in the game. And so you could go tile by tile and compare, but there's no like hard answer for this is the version that we used. So it exists. We used this ID to upload the map when it actually went to the site, not this one specifically. Maybe it was, I don't know. That's the problem. We don't know which one it actually was. So they just want to have the ability to say, okay, this is the map that I'm looking at. This is the Fortunate Maps ID. So if I want to improve it or make an edit on it, I know what my starting point is and I can do that. So that's definitely a QOL feature. Probably a higher priority one too. But moving on, TagPro Friends feature. This is going to be a release cornerstone. This, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest voted. This is the highest voted thing on the feedback board. It's got 120 likes and people want it. And what I realized, I forgot to do this before, the second highest one, we actually did. We built this and we forgot to mark it internally as a thing that we were updating. So we're going to mark this as closed now. I just want to read through it real quick. It would be nice to have a spectate games button in addition to the regular play now button. If you spectate, you can't join a regular game for X seconds after you stop to prevent game shopping. So we fixed that by having a spectate delay, and we have this exact button now exists. So I think we can mark this as complete. Look at all those games going. Love that. Because we did that. We made a thing. So let me just make sure there's nothing else in this request that we missed. When queuing for ranked, I like to watch the ranked games currently going on. So we have the ability to do that now. So that's done. I used to be able to spacebar to toggle. We didn't really add that back in, but you can pick whichever game you want now. So I think we're okay on that. Let lobby viewers comment on games while waiting for game. That is not included here. We kind of almost did that and we decided to not do it. So I'm going to skip over that for now. Sounds like this could be manipulated or abused if they can see team chat or distracting. So we're not letting them talk to others. This is a different feature. Spectate chat is separate. I think we're okay to skip over that. Yeah, this is a separate feature that we have a different ticket for. Testing scripts, that can be done. Chat with each other. Yeah, so that's a separate feature already. So, okay, let's close that as complete because it is. And let me grab the Reddit post as well so I can link that. Direct spectate was added in a recent release. Read about it here. And that is complete. Nice. All right, where was I? TagPro Friends feature, right. Currently the most upvoted thing on the feedback tab. We have a really, really well written specification for this feature already done. We just need to actually find the time to prioritize it. So this is it's a cornerstone, but it's a big undertaking. Linking Discord and Reddit accounts is probably a prereq to the Friends feature. I'll talk about that more later. But yeah, this is probably a top priority cornerstone item in the future. All right, sort 360-degree players by date earned, not by wins. This is saying on the community tab, this is sorted by wins right now. They want it to be by the date that that player became 360. It's pretty close right now anyway, but it's not exact. So we could do that. I'm not sure when or why, but we could definitely do it. So we'll put that down there. Restore top speed power up option. I think that was called the grip. No, not grip. It was, no, it was called top speed. Grip was just juke juice. So we could do that where it makes you go faster when you have it. I think it was removed because it was overpowered. I don't remember the exact reasoning. I wasn't around the community at the time, but that's definitely a thing we could do. Remove the Mars ball siren from maps with enclosed Mars balls. That seems like a QOL thing. I think the siren, if you're not familiar, I'm not going to try to recreate the sound. It sounds kind of like an air horn or like a foghorn maybe. Air raid foghorn, somewhere between the two. It can be annoying if it's just always happening because it's locked in a wall next to your base. So we should not have that happen. And similarly, when a Mars ball is trapped, we don't want players earning phantom returns for bumping into that ball. That was added in when pushing Mars balls would still give you captures. And it's not true. It's giving players returns when they didn't actually get a return. So that should stop happening. That's QOL. It's worst in Grav. That would make sense. Yeah, if there's a gravity map that uses a Mars ball, it's just going to continue going off. So yeah, we should remove that audio. Fix group names wrapping under flare when long enough. What? Oh, yeah, if your name's too long, it puts your name under your flare instead of just truncating. So yeah, that's QOL. Add ready check option to private groups. This is saying that if you are in a group, you have the in here text or the question marks text, depending on what page you're on. If you're in here, you have the option to also change that to ready, which would just communicate to the group leader that you want the game to launch. We could do it. Well, it's kind of QOL because it helps with group management, which is good. But does it really change anything about what we're doing? It kind of blurs the line. I think I'm going to put it in QOL because it is improving the quality of life of group leaders. If they want to know when all their players are ready, they don't need to wait for everyone to say R in the chat and then compare all the names. So I think I'm going to put that QOL for now. Give group leaders the option to mute players in their group and game. We talked about something similar on stream recently. We might have to combine those tickets, but that is also a QOL. Let's move everything down a little bit. Offer stacking flare compounding effect. What? Is this a typo? Yeah, power up, not flare. What? Stacking power-up compounding effects in group settings. So that's saying that if I get a juke juice, and while I have that juke juice, I get a second juke juice, my acceleration should increase even more than it did from having the first juke juice. So I think that's kind of cool. I'm not sure how important it is, so we could definitely do it, but I'm not sure when or why. Additional rolling bomb detonation and expiration experimental settings. This is in the same boat. It's we talked about this one on stream too, actually. Forget all the stuff we've talked about, where it's just different ways of having a rolling bomb go off. So there's the option for it to detonate when it expires. So instead of your 20 seconds getting up and nothing happening, at the end of 20 seconds it explodes even if you didn't want it to. That's a group option. And then detonation triggers bombs. If you explode your rolling bomb and you're close to an actual bomb, you would detonate that bomb with your explosion as well. So these are all just group requests. These are things that I think are pretty cool, but again, not really critical to the game. So we could do it, but I'm not sure when. Replay filter for games which should not count towards stats. So if you want to filter your replay so you don't see voids and you don't see games that you were in for like 10 seconds and then it ended and you didn't get credit for it, just the ability to remove those, that is a QOL feature. Then we've got replace team name with player name in replay scoring tick mark tooltip. That's a mouthful. This is saying on the replay tab, if I'm watching a game back and I want to see who scored in the middle of the game, right now I can see that the red team captured on this tick mark. The problem with this is that it's already red. So I know that it's a red team capture. So that tooltip doesn't give me any new information. So the request is that instead of red team capture, this says cheese doodle capture. So you can say, okay, at this point in the game, this person scored. At this point in the game, this other person scored. And you'll know the team because it's already in that color. This is probably QOL because it's currently misleading. But this is a QOL that might be lower priority than some of the could do it. But yeah, we'll put it there for now. Allow custom maps for egg ball and hockey game modes. This is a pretty big request. We've had it several times from several different directions. For those of you who don't know what egg ball is, it is a football-esque map game type where you have an egg. The egg can be passed between players, and the goal is to bring the egg into the enemy end zone. Let's see if I can find a quick replay. What's the name of the... Is it just egg ball? People love their hockey and egg ball. Well, the request is that with that game mode, is there an ability for that to be done on custom maps? So obviously Capture the Flag, TagPro has custom maps, but egg ball is locked in on that singular map, and it looks like there are no results here. So let's look up real quick just so you can see it. Egg ball. You can see it's like a big field essentially, and what players want is the ability to have this game mode but not on this map. So just have it be on regular TagPro maps where you still have players start the game in the middle. You still have one team start with the egg. You still pass the egg to your teammates and pop if you run into them and all of that. But instead of having these end zones that say TagPro in them, you have actual end zone tiles, and the goal is still to bring the egg into that end zone. So it's kind of a combination of neutral flag and egg ball, because you have all of the map elements of a neutral flag game, but you have the passing mechanic of an egg ball game. And so you can see here, if you click, it throws the egg, and obviously if this was like a 4v4 or a 6v6 as it's meant to be played, it would be a little more exciting. But if you walk in the egg, you get a huddle up and you get a point for your team. So players want this to be on other maps instead of just on the egg ball map, and I think that'd be pretty cool. Same request for hockey. Ice hockey is only offered right now on the ice hockey map, but the same thing, they'd want this to be on any map where you have the puck in the middle the ice tiles, and then the end zones that you score in. So I think those are pretty reasonable requests. I think that actually could be bordering on a cornerstone feature, so I'm going to put it up there for now because it's a pretty big undertaking, but it would also be a huge opportunity, I think, to improve on what those game modes started as. What did I just press? Oh god, get out of here. I don't know what I just did. Okay. Yes, I'm going to put that as a cornerstone just because I think it would be a really well-received feature. I'm not sure how high on the list of cornerstone priorities it would be, but it's a high effort, high reward kind of thing in my opinion. So we'll put it up there for now. Imagine Egg Ball on Danger Zone 3 or Holy See. Yeah, anything like that would be totally on the table there. So add a new role for active MTC and display with volunteers. Right, so right now the Map Test Committee flare is legacy only, so we don't have it in the community tab because, or volunteers tab, sorry, because anybody can have it. So if you look at, I think Bali has one. Nope, he doesn't. Who has one? There you go. Dragon Beast has the map tester flare, but not currently a member of the map test committee. So why? The reason is anytime somebody was added to the MTC, they would receive this flare. There was never any automated system there. It was all manual, so players were receiving it and then eventually leaving the map test committee. Nobody was tracking that and taking away their flare. So it's sort of become this legacy flare where at some point in the past, this person was on the map test committee, which is fine, but it makes it hard to then add the map test committee to the volunteers tab because that flare is not actually representative of who the current map test committee is. So the request here is to keep that flare as is. Anybody who's ever been on the MTC gets it, fine. But a current active MTC flare, that's probably just going to be the exact same flare but with red instead of green fluid, that can be updated regularly, maybe tied into the Discord bot that they have and make sure that it's only active members so we can display their names as volunteers, because they're an important part of the game right now, but they don't really get any recognition on this site. So that would be a QOL thing, and I think we could prioritize that sooner than some of these other things. So customize power-up indicator display timing before power-up respawn. If you are in a game and a power-up is grabbed, it will currently show what the next power-up is going to be. Those are your next pup indicator displays. The request here is for the timing of that to be customizable. So right now, as soon as you grab a power-up, it shows you what the next one will be. In this request, you could say, I want the preview to only be displayed for 5 seconds. And in that case, somebody grabs a power-up, it shows the empty power-up tile for 55 seconds, and then at 55 seconds, it says, okay, this one is going to be a TagPro, and it will display the TagPro preview, and then it will start the respawn process for that TagPro in 5 seconds. So that is somewhere between QOL and could do it. I think I'm going to put it with could do it because it's not really critical to the game. But I can see I think this was a question for the competitive meta. Instead of knowing what the power-ups are going to be so far ahead of time, keep the respawn timers in, but don't let players know what flare it's going to be until the respawn timer starts. I think that was the argument that I got at the time. I don't really have a strong feeling about that. That's just what I was asked when I put that ticket in, if I'm not mistaken. Any thoughts on the new power-up ideas that have been floated a while back? Do you have an example for me, Crit? I have a lot of thoughts on power-ups, but a lot of those are going to be in this category down here. Power-ups in general are hard to talk about because they're fun and you can do a lot of conceptualizing and planning and ideas for other things that you could add into the game. But when does the game actually need new power-ups? And the answer I've sort of landed on with this, and I'm happy to hear other opinions, is that you add in new power-ups when you feel like the meta has stagnated to some degree, where people aren't really experimenting new things anymore, where they've kind of settled into a routine of this is what you do when you have this power-up in this situation. There's no kind of disparity in decision making with that. Like there's a correct answer and a wrong answer. And I think that when we get there, that's when you need to start adding in more power-up options or more power-ups at all, because it forces people to reevaluate what they do in certain situations. It progresses the meta. I don't think that we're there right this second. I think that there's still a lot of experimenting going on with the rolling bomb manual diffusal. I think right now people are messing around with the juke juice boosts as an experimental thing, and the other thing is the rolling bomb intensity and radius. We just added group options for that to be messed around with. So any power up that we add right now would be experimental. It would be, do we think this is a thing that could be added to the base game, which is totally fine. I'm happy to do that. It's just not the highest priority right this second. Gravity reverse rolling bomb. Was that in... Did we get that request? Hold on, let me look that up real quick. Yes, okay. Invert rolling bomb option in groups. I don't think I got to this one on my list here, but I do have it as a ticket, so we'll get to it eventually. Add option for rolling bomb to invert, implode instead of explode, where it pulls players in instead of pushes players away. I think the biggest question was, what do we call it? The rolling hole was the leading. Yeah, so that is on our radar. I think that would be in the could do it but when why category, but rolling holes are on the roadmap in some capacity. Yeah, add customizable music rotation. This is a QOL thing. Players want to be able to say, from all the TagPro songs, I want to listen to only these 5 on repeat or whatever they. So if you go to TagPro, if you Google TagPro music, you'll find this website. If you look it up, SGEO, I'll just put this in the chat. This has all the songs that are currently on the site. So just the ability to customize what your song rotation is instead of having all of them. For those who were not aware, if you are in a game and you don't like the current song, you can press the period or the comma button and it will skip forward on that song to the next one. If you didn't know that, little QOL trick for you. So yeah, adding customizable music rotation, that would be a QOL feature. So we will put that there. Modify egg ball spawn points to never cross midfield. That's QOL, unrelated to the other egg ball things. Currently at the start of the game, you have a midline, you have a red team and a blue team. Sometimes a player from one team will end up crisscrossed, and sometimes that player will end up with the flag. So you'll have somebody start on the wrong side of the map with the egg, and their only play is to just pass it backward to their teammate because they started in enemy territory. So there should just be a clear, this is the middle of the map, don't spawn players on the other team's side. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That would be a QOL thing because it's a little confusing that it happens like that. Award mobile flare after pencil flare for 3 wins for active display. This is a super nitpick thing, but it is QOL. If you are a brand new player, you are playing on the TagPro mobile app on the Android or in the Google Play Store. If you earn 3 wins on mobile, you earn a mobile flare. Fine. But if you earn 3 wins while logged in, you also earn the pencil flare. And right now, the mobile flare is authenticated before the pencil flare. So when you win, you get the mobile flare, it becomes your active display, then you get the pencil flare, and that becomes your active display, but they happen at the same time. So the next game, you show up with a pencil flare instead of with a mobile flare. I just want that to be switched so that the new player who earned a cool, somewhat rare flare can display that one instead of the pencil flare that everybody owns. Super minor thing, but it is a QOL feature. Revert game and mercy rule settings when disabling map test mode. That's just a QOL thing. If you select map test mode in a private group, whoops, where'd my group go? All right, watch closely. If I select map test mode, watch the mercy rule and watch the time limit. Mercy rule goes away. Time limit goes from 6 to 10. If I disable it, those don't change. So it should just change back to what it was before that was enabled instead of staying in the post change settings. So it's a QOL thing, very minor. Revoke rolling bomb invulnerability after contact with the offending element is broken. So this is talking about rolling bombs and gates. If you are, imagine Transilio. I think that's the easiest map to think about this on. Let me pull up a picture of Transilio, the old one. This isn't the right version, but it gets the point across. These giant gates in the current settings, if an enemy player is sitting on this button and you have a rolling bomb, it will detonate and you will roll through all of these gates and you will get through to the other side. That is not going to change. But if you are here and a player rolls over the button, off of the button, and then back onto the button, you are still alive. And so what the change is requesting is that anytime you are no longer in contact with the element that you were saved from, so the first time the gate was activated and it diffused your rolling bomb, if that gate stops being activated or you stop being on that gate and then you go back onto that gate or that gate is reactivated, that should count as a separate contact instance instead of your invulnerability from the first thing that did pop or did explode it also carrying over to the second time that would pop you. So it's a very, very minor thing. I think we need a little bit more discussion on whether or not we should actually do that. So I'm going to put it down in the could do it, but when, why. I think it is slightly more intuitive. My bigger concern is that it comes up so rarely that it's not really that critical to work on that, but we could definitely do it. I'm just not sure why we need to do it. I'm not going to bother talking about this one. It's just saying event lobbies can get extra players. That's fine. This is another thing that's just a profile, whatever, with the event master flare. Allow Mars balls to reset without scoring on yellow flag tiles. I want to talk about this one a little more. So this is right now a Mars ball mode. If you have a loose Mars ball, it's not locked in a wall, and you push it to the other side of the map, if it rolls over like a red flag, it would award 3 points and it would reset the Mars ball. That mechanic was used by a lot of mini games in neutral flags because in the old settings, before we made a bunch of changes to the Mars ball, if that Mars ball rolled over a yellow flag, it would reset the Mars ball, but it would not offer points to any team. Now, if you want to use a red or a blue flag to reset the Mars ball, it does award points as expected, but we took away the ability, I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, we took away the ability for the yellow flag to also reset the Mars ball. So the request here is that yellow flags continue to reset the Mars ball so they can be used as a non-scoring way of moving the Mars ball back to where it spawned. And I think that's a QOL thing because that would be my expected behavior. If you have a Mars ball that rolls over a red or a blue flag, one thing happens. I think that same thing, that resetting, should also happen with a yellow flag. That seems like the most intuitive outcome. So we're going to keep that in QOL for now. And obviously when we talk about priority, we will revisit it. So add a spectate replay option to follow flag carrier. This one's somewhere between QOL and Cornerstone. I think this is a pretty big one. Players want the ability to, instead of centering their view on the map or centering their view on a single player, they want to be able to follow who the flag carrier is. So think about neutral flag games. If you are a streamer and you want to focus where the play is, it would switch your viewport to whichever player has the flag in that moment. So if I have the flag, I get popped by somebody else. Now they're following that player, even though I'm respawning wherever. And I think it's a much more smooth viewing experience if you are a spectator or a streamer. It's just better. The edge case of that is what happens if the flag carrier spikes or captures. Where do you go? And I think for now we're saying that it just pans back to the center of the map, and then you view wherever that flag gets grabbed again. You'll just follow that next player who grabs it. Now, for neutral flag, that makes perfect sense. For capture the flag, how do you do this? I think what's in the spec right now is that capture the flag, you would pick which team you're going to be focused on the flag for, and it would center on that red flag until it's grabbed and then come back to the red flag tile over and over instead of trying to like balance between the two teams. So I wouldn't want it to be the thing where you're following the red flag carrier, they pop and you're teleported over to the blue flag carrier. I think that'd be kind of jarring to watch. So keeping it team specific is probably best for capture the flag. Now the question is that a release Cornerstone? I think it'd be pretty cool. I think a lot of people want it. I'm not sure it's like a big moves the game forward kind of thing. So I lean towards the QOL more so than the Cornerstone. Because right now, I think it's more than a could do it, but when, why? I think it's a thing people actually would expect to exist. So I'm going to put it in QOL for now. And if you disagree, let me know. Got about 10 minutes left, and then we'll wrap up here. So I'm not sure we're going to get through the full list. Just to put it out there, I'm going to add in the rest of the features that were not on this list. We're going to keep working on this next week, and then we'll go through and start actually putting these in the order of getting them done, and then talk about prerequisites. So what thing needs to be done to work on this other big thing, and kind of start actually building a roadmap instead of just making lists. But this is our starting point, and we will go from there. So preserve category header when scrolling through group maps. If you're in a group right now and you have a bunch of maps that you want to pick from, currently, if you scroll past rotation maps, it's gone. You don't know that you're in rotation maps until you get to something else, and then you know where you are. So just keeping that little header up there while you are in that group is a QOL thing that will be good to have. Running out of space again. Fix particle effects displayed when flares are disabled. That's pretty self-explanatory. QOL. Fix uncapped max speed with unlimited gravity jumps. That's another thing where if you just keep spamming up in a gravity map with unlimited jumps, it will just keep increasing your speed forever. There's no cap on it, so it'll break the game because you can start teleporting through walls and stuff. So fix that. Replace games played display with progress bar relative to others. This is saying that on the leaderboard for ranked, instead of having games, you have a little bar where it's like a little blue bar that's a certain size, and then based on the highest bar, so 2000, everybody else's bar is a little bit smaller, so that it just displays who has a lot of games, who has only a few games, with just a nicer visual. That's somewhere between QOL and could do, but why? I'm going to leave it in purgatory because I don't know right now. Add game type filter to My Games and Public Games tab. There is a way to do this. It's a bit of a hack right now. If you go to My Games, set your filter, then go to Public Games, it will keep that filter, but that filter should just be offered from the start on replays. Just for those who don't know what I'm talking about, click on this little filter. You can pick different maps and whatnot, different game types. This should also exist for all public games, but it's missing. You can see the game type is not there, but it is there now. So just add this in there as well. That's a QOL thing. Fix monthly leaderboards displaying time in the past after a reset. Right now, if a leaderboard rolls over for the monthly, it will... Actually, we might see this in an hour. If you look here later, it might say like 6 minutes ago if the board hasn't been refreshed yet. So just fix that so it doesn't do that. Hide pregame launcher chat when all chat is disabled. That would be an expected behavior. If you don't want to see chat, don't show them chat. Fix AFK warning after the game has ended. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. Sometimes a game will end and then you'll get a notification that says move, you're AFK, but the game's already over. That is not supposed to happen. Add preserve momentum through respawn group options. So it's saying if you pop and you were moving really fast when you popped, when you spawn again, should you start with no momentum, which is what happens now, or should you start with all the momentum that you had when you popped? I think that'd be a pretty fun thing to add as a group option. It's mostly got a use case for gravity because there are some maps that kind of build off of that bug where you can only pass a certain obstacle with enough speed coming out of your spawn. But I think that'd be a cool thing to keep as a feature for any situation, just for fun. So could do it, not sure when, but would be fun. Allow game mode specific random map selection in private groups. So right now, if you're in a private group and you want to play a random game, you can select random, but it will select a random game for capture the flag or neutral flag. The request is that instead of random, you have random CTF, random NF, or random all, and it will pick for you. I think that is a could do it, but why kind of thing. Don't kick players for mini games for AFK. We just talked about that one actually on the candy board today. That is a QOL thing because it would keep players in games longer, which is what we want. So that's good. Prioritize single player mini games when only one player is sent. If you are the only player in your mini game, it shouldn't be giving you the Mars ball push or like shift, for example. That's a 2-player or more game mode. So if it's a single player, try to put them on a map that actually works for a single player. Display pending AFK tags to clock player indicators. Oh, on the scoreboard, if you're watching a game, let me spectate a game real quick. This is saying that down here you have 4 different players. If one of them is AFK, it should gray them out and put a little AFK icon, kind of like you see in the actual game, right there. Or the pending thing, if they have a little hourglass, same idea. It should display that on these little icons, so that if you're on this side of the map playing and you don't know what's going on over here, if somebody is AFK, you can see that at the bottom of your screen instead of having to rely on players in the chat reporting that somebody is not moving in that game. I'm kind of hooked on this game now. Overtime, that's got to be it. Surely. Come on now. Come on, red team. You had all the tools in the world here. Come on. No! All right, I'm giving up on that. Please? If he doesn't score this, I'm giving up. He's in. All right, we're good. Good work, everyone. All right. Yeah, so displaying that little icon at the bottom would be good. Fix maps missing from the maps page from MTC upload. That's a simple thing. There's just a little checkbox that I need to click right now for maps to show up here. If the MTC adds a map, it's not always showing up here. Just a little bug fix thing. Add game history list to private groups with recent outcomes and links. This is saying if I'm in a private group and I've just played 3 or 4 games, they want to see somewhere around here, like this game just happened, this was the result, here's a link to the replay, and like a list of the last 3 or 4 games that happened so they can see quickly what the results of the games have been. The easiest use case for that, probably like competitive league tournaments and stuff like that. Like if it's a best of 5 series, you can look back and say, okay, we won games 1 and 2 or whatever. I'm not sure how critical that is, but we could definitely do it, which means it's going to go into the could do it category. Add a visual or audio indicator when a game is in a final minute. This is more of a... This is kind of with that one. It's sort of QOL. It's sort of a could do it thing. It's more of a larger discussion about the site design and all that. So we'll put it in its own little purgatory for now. Add customization of splats display time. This is a QOL thing. Players want to be able to decide if there is a splat because somebody popped there. I only want that to be displayed for 2 seconds and then take it away, kind of thing. Scroll wheel zooms in or out in replays. This is a QOL thing. They're saying if I'm spectating a replay, I want to be able to zoom in without having to press the plus and the minus button. I can just scroll up or down and it would zoom in or out. That would be kind of cool. Record and display overtime win rate in casual and ranked. This would be cool to do. Not sure when we would get to it. Experimental teleportation power-up. This is similar to what Crit was talking about before. I think this one, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, if you're moving in a direction with this new power-up and you press spacebar, it would move you forward a certain amount of tiles depending on how long you held the spacebar for or something like that, up to a certain... I forget the exact details. It's experimental. We would try it out to see how it works. Add newly earned flares to the random rotation when selected. That's an expected thing. If you earn a new flare, it makes that your active flare. So right now, instead of changing your active flare from random to the new one, just add the new one into your random so it will come up in the future. Display wins required for all future degree flares. That's just the hover in your profile. Right now, if you have a certain number of wins, I need 145 wins to get my wildflower. I don't know how many wins I need to get bowling because it's the one after my next one. The request is just to have that same text displayed for all upcoming degree flares. So that's a QOL thing. Award capture when the neutral flag carrier refreshes in the end zone. This is actually a higher priority thing. I'm not sure it's a cornerstone necessarily. but we have a lot, especially with ranked neutral flag coming out now, of players talking about and even actually doing this in some cases, where they will have the flag in the end zone and they will refresh because there is no longer a spiking mechanism in their base. This is explicitly against the rules in the code of conduct. I don't like being super hardline on the rules about stuff like this, so I'd rather just build in a kind of an insurance policy to the game where it says, okay, if you do that, fine, it's still going to give the other team a capture, so why would you do it now? So just kind of building that in so it's not as tempting for players to do that. Allow team swapping with AFK players for save. If you are in a 4v4, somebody on the other team goes AFK, now it's a 4v3. If your team captures, you cannot switch onto their team because that fourth spot is filled by the AFK ball. So this is saying if that happens and I click switch teams, if their team has an AFK, it will just swap my space with the AFK player so that it's now 4v3 in favor of the losing team. I'll get my save attempt. They will still be AFK. If they come back, now it's 4v4 all as well. That is a QOL thing because it would improve casual game environment. And our last one for today, change the display color of the name notes replay column. So I'm looking at my replays here, and I have my favorite games. There's some notes and whatnot. I just want that to be a different color so they can see it a little bit better, so it stands out. That's going to be a could do it. It's kind of in this purgatory too. It's a visual improvement. Yeah. So that's a starting point. Again, this is not all of the stuff that we have planned. This is about half of the things that we have planned, and it's none of the recent stuff. The most recent thing here was submitted over a year ago. So anything we've done in the last year has yet to be added to this list. So we're going to pause there because we're at 90 minutes for the week. And we are going to pick this up exactly where we left off next week, just with the rest of the items. We're going to add them all in. And then after that, we'll talk about the actual ordering and picking which things to prioritize next. So we have a couple of weeks to figure this out because we already know the short-term roadmap. We are working on the shop and then the Steam release. Those are the two big things in the near future. This is for after that. What do we focus on from then on? And the other goal with this is breaking down these tasks into difficulty level and time it would take to finish them, because some of the things that we do, we have a big release, but we have a little bit of extra time, or we have a developer who only had like a day or two to work on something. They don't have like a week to work on something big. So we can just grab a smaller thing and say, okay, here's a little thing for you to work on. Let's have you add wall bombs, because it'll take you a day and it's a nice thing to have, but it wasn't like critical for the release, but it would still be nice for people to have this. So we'll talk more about how we break down the assignments that our developers are getting. And that can be a cool thing to explore a little bit as well. So that's going to be it for this week. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any concerns about any of the stuff that's come up in the stream, obviously feel free to reach out. And if you want to have me talk about anything specific, like the roadmap, feel free to put a question into the form that you will find in the description of this YouTube video. But if there are no other questions in the chat, which I don't see any, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So thanks all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend, and I will see you all soon.